Hey guys, what is up? Inksmith back again, and today I'm doing a very different type of video. I'm telling my own, I guess, bad relationship. I don't know if I want to call it my abuse story, but this is a relationship story from my past with a girl who treated me pretty bad, and it took me a long time to look back on it and realize just how bad the relationship was. Um, and you're gonna hear probably the sound quality shift now and again because I literally would have to stop while telling this and like think about the hardest parts slowly and get them out slowly, and I guess kind of just take some time because even myself, I'm triggered by some of these old memories. And I guess that's a trigger warning for you guys too. If you've dealt with abusive relationships in the past, maybe this might not be the video for you if you don't want to hear about it. I will say it doesn't get like too gruesome, like there's not grievous injury or anything like that, but it's definitely some pretty controlling situations. And I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I kind of almost deleted this video, but at the same time, I felt like, well, if this reaches one person who sees some of the stuff happening in their own life and realizes, oh, so that is crazy. Like, this guy went through this and it is crazy. And also, I wanted to make it for like other guys out there who need to realize that they too can be abused in a relationship, because with the Sienna May thing going on and Jack Wright having to come out and talk about how he was abused, I felt like a little more brave about telling my own story. While I don't think it's as bad as his, I think his was a way darker and harder to deal with situation. I guess my main thing is I want to reach out to other dudes and say this can happen to you too, and if you see some of these same things, um, reach out for help. You can even talk to me if you want. That's fine. But I guess that's all I've got to say. I don't. You're gonna hear some shifts in like sound quality, some shifts in background noise and stuff, and that's because I recorded this over 3 different days in 3 different places and just did it as I could, emotionally and physically. So bear with me. Thank you for listening. Hey guys, what is up? Inksmith back, and today I'm doing a very different video. Today I'm going to be sharing my own sort of traumatic past relationship situation, in hopes that not only can I reach out to other victims who are in like bad situations as far as a relationship goes, but just kind of throw out some of the warning signs so you yourself, if you notice any of these same things going on in your relationship, maybe you too need to get out. Now, this has nothing to do with the woman I'm married to now, who takes great care of me and treats me amazing. This is probably my first relationship out of college. I had other ones while I was in college and while I was in high school, but this was my first relationship where I moved in with someone, where I co-inhabited with someone. And I think that's an important thing to do before you ever get married, is try to co-inhabit with somebody. And this was somebody that I did think I was going to marry. We were at a point where we were fiancé, and it was a really bad situation. And because I was still pretty naive, I was only about 21 at the time, so I was still pretty naive about relationships. I think I'd only had like 2 girlfriends in college and 1 girlfriend in high school, so I was still not the smartest guy when it came to relationships. And I was pretty much being run around like a crazy person, and I didn't really even realize how badly I was being taken advantage of. And that's why I want to share this, is because maybe you yourself are getting taken advantage of in a relationship and you don't even realize it, and you think like, how am I not making this work, when really there's no way you would make it work. It's not a good situation. You need to get out and find a relationship that does work. If there's one thing I think all the bad relationships we ever have can teach us, it's what we're not looking for in a person. So, like I said, age 21. I moved in right after college. It was a girl who I was starting to date as I finished up my last few months. I believe we met online, I want to say. I think that's the first time we started to talk. And we had talked for a really long time. We had our first meetup in the last month that I was in college. Yes, I remember that. I traveled to Orlando to meet her. I was going to college in Tallahassee, Florida at the time, so that's like probably a 3-hour trip, 4-hour trip. It's about halfway through Florida. And that's pretty much, I spent like a week with her the first time I met her, and I think I, th- I thought I was in love. Stupid 21-year-old me thought he was in love. So I made plans to move in with her because I thought, like, this is the person I want to live the rest of my life with. Now, when I did actually finally get married, I dated my wife for about a year before we finally got married. So I was a little more cautious in the future. That definitely taught me not to jump into relationships so fast. So first thing was, she lived in her own apartment, so she invited me to move in, and it sounded great to me because it was a 2-bedroom apartment, and I thought, like, no matter what, even if we have different schedules or whatever, we'll be able to work all this out. Even if the relationship doesn't work out, there's 2 bedrooms in there, so I could just rent the other bedroom. And she must be making pretty decent money because it was a pretty big apartment. Not that, I'm not judging her on money. I'm judging her if she has her life together. You want to check these things. And I got there, and right away, the first thing I found out is she had lied that she had owned the apartment by herself. There actually was another roommate in there. Probably something I should have investigated more. And you're probably going to see that again and again in this situation where I should have investigated more. I should have looked more into it, but naive me wanted to believe all people were good with good intentions. I had gone to Catholic school my whole life, and I pretty much just thought everyone was as nice and as pure as the people I went to school with. I wasn't really too versed in personalities outside of the very white-collar, high-class people I went to school with, I guess I should say. Not to say that she wasn't like low class, but she definitely didn't have the same moral aspects that a lot of the people I went to college with, in school with, in high school with. We were kind of kept very strict because we had the fear of God in us, I guess, if you will. And I'm making this sound horrible. This sounds so horrible. I don't care if people are atheists. In fact, I'm not a Catholic anymore, and I don't believe in a lot of the teachings of Catholicism. But at the time, that was what my small worldview was. It says more about me than the girl I was with. That I was so non-diversified as far as the people I hung out with that I only thought these types of personalities were the types of personalities I would see in everyone. My high school girlfriend had treated me well. My college girlfriends had treated me well, and I just thought that was going to continue. Little did I know that wasn't. So she lies about owning the apartment by herself, and I find out there's another guy living there who's almost never there, and that other guy who's living there who's almost never there is her ex-boyfriend. So right away, this becomes very sketchy because she told me we'd be renting the place for $700 a month, and I thought we would be splitting $700 a month, which would be $350 each. Well, as soon as I move in, I find out the ex-boyfriend is paying for the other half. And of course, once I move in, he's pissed off and he moves out right away. And now our rent doubles to $1,400 a month, which is insane. Like, I mean, I wasn't ready to pay that much rent right out of college with no job or anything. All I had left, I think, was some money from my college tuition, and that was about it. I had to start using what little I had saved up from that. And you'll see I make a lot of financial mistakes within this. So right away, I've been lied to about that. I guess in a way she didn't lie, but she didn't let on to the fact that most likely as soon as I moved in, her ex-boyfriend would move out, and that the guy who was living there was an ex-boyfriend who I had never met before. He wasn't there the whole week that I stayed with her. And there wasn't anything in his bedroom either. I remember that specifically. I remember there was just like an empty bedroom. So I don't know where he was sleeping. Maybe he was already getting ready to move out. I never got to talk to the guy much. So, I mean, he was gone and rent doubled. So right away, I find out rent doubles. So I get a job as a waiter, and she's working at the same place as a waiter. So that's how she gets me a job there. And I also have to get a second job at Circuit City, which is a defunct place now. It doesn't exist anymore. That's why I don't mind saying the old place I worked at. You're not going to call old Circuit City and find out any information about me. It's like Best Buy. Those of you who were born after the creation of Circuit City and the fall of Circuit City, it was like Best Buy. But it's gone now. It went bankrupt a long time ago. And I'm working 2 jobs. So as soon as I move in, like, I've already got a lot of stress piled up on my plate because I'm working from, I think, about 9 to 4 o'clock. I'd get home, I'd eat dinner, and then I'd work from like 5 to 11 o'clock. So I'm working like insane days, like over 12-hour days. And from there, rent doubles, and I find when I'm at work, I'm not having any problems with the people that I work with. Like, I rarely ever get into cantankerous fights with my bosses or my coworkers, but I notice my girlfriend at the time is constantly getting into fights with everyone at work, like over like simple things. Like, someone took her order out before she took it out. Somebody took her drinks out before she took it out. And she's getting into a fight almost every night. And any night that I don't stay there and work with her at the same time and like kind of calm her down and make her be like, hey, like, let's not get into a fight with other, our fellow employees, our fellow peers. Let's just, focus on our job and work. She comes home and tells me about how like she almost got fired. And I'm like, holy cow, like, why is everybody so mean to my girlfriend? I remember thinking that, like, oh my gosh, the guy who runs that place is such a jerk. Why does he never talk to her like that when I'm there? What I totally didn't understand is that she just was like the type of person who liked to pick arguments, who liked to pick fights. And she eventually got herself fired from that because she picked so many fights with all the employees there. So now I'm still working 2 jobs, and she tells me, well, don't worry, I'll find a job at another place. She never does. Now, I lived with this girl for almost 2 years. I'm working 2 jobs. Like, from the second I wake up, I go to work, and from the second I go to bed, I come home from work and collapse. And she never got another job in those 2 years. I'm paying for everything, all right? I'm paying for the electric, the gas, the water, the internet, the apartment rent, and I'm blowing almost my whole paycheck on it because it's $1,400 a month, which is like way more than what I can afford. I think I'm like literally almost paying my full paycheck towards that. The money that we're living off of for food and stuff is just whatever little she has whittled away. Even that starts to run out, so that we're to a point where I think we have like $200 left over for a whole month of groceries, which I don't care, how poor of an artist you are, or, how ex-college kid you are, it's not enough to survive off. Even of the time that I was 21 years old, the prices were still not that different than they are today. It was not easy to survive off of that. So we're always like eating scraps of food. Like, I remember our food was always just like whatever we could throw together. It would be like Spam and like soup mixed together and just weird stuff like that, like mashed potatoes that cost $5 for 1 week of mashed potatoes in powder form, and like we'd eat mashed potatoes every night. It was bad. Drinking water is our only drink. Now, after I'm working these 2 jobs, I'm always tired, and I'm not in the mood to like hang out or go on date night or anything like that, because I'm literally working 7 days a week, always to make money and always to pay every single bill. And I just think like, well, this is my job. If I'm gonna make this work, I need to make sure she's taken care of. And I constantly work and constantly come home tired from work. And then from there, she starts getting into staying up late every night, which is fine. Like, I don't think my girlfriend needs to have a bedtime. But the problem I run into is that she loves to hang out and talk to people on the internet all night. And anytime there's any problem, or she didn't know how to spell something that she was typing to someone, she would wake me up and ask me what to do. And like, that's fine if I have the next day off, but I never had the next day off. So I'd be getting woken up again and again throughout the night while I'm like dead asleep. And it's her just asking like silly questions like, hey, how do I spell this? Oh, okay. Hey, the internet won't connect. Can you like refresh the internet? Where like you just like, reset it by unplugging it and plugging it back in again. Like, she wouldn't even do stuff like that. And I'd be like, oh my God. Like, and of course, eventually I would reach a point where like, I would be incredibly frustrated. I'd be like, please just like leave me sleep. And then she would go into this like whole you don't love me anymore thing, and say that she was gonna leave me, and I'd be like, oh, don't leave me. I'd fight with her back and forth and be like, come on, like, I'm sorry I yelled at you. I shouldn't have lost my temper. When really, I mean, I was being like pushed to the edge. When I look back on it now, I think like, how crazy is that? Like, my wife and I now, we work jobs like all through the week, sometimes 6 to 7 days a week. And if I kept waking her up or she kept waking me up, we'd be like, that's completely irrational. Why would you do that and try to have like a mature, like, career life? It wouldn't make any sense. Like, you need your sleep. So it was like literally ticking away at my sanity, like to the point where like I'd have trouble thinking correctly at work. I've got ADD and dyslexia, and if you don't get enough sleep, they're even worse. So I'd even have days where I would be like late for work, and I'm never late for work. Like, I had never ever been late for work in my life until I lived with her, and she would keep me up so much through the night by waking me up over and over again. I would sleep through my alarm. Now, I've never had that ever happen again. I never had it happen before. I never missed a single college class. I was that kid who got that like never absent like award. That was like the only award I got in high school, was like you never missed a day. Like, that was me. I never missed a day. I was never late. Like, my parents never got called for me being late. For me, being late like really creates a lot of anxiety, so I'm never late for anything. And I couldn't believe I'd be sleeping through my alarm. Like, it blew my mind. I'd never experienced that before. And so now I'm being late for work. I'm getting yelled at by my boss. And then when I'm getting home, she wants to go do date night, but I've got to go work in another couple of hours. So she wants me to try and fit in like a dinner with her to go out and eat somewhere, something we couldn't even afford. And then I would have to go work my waiter job at nighttime. And I'm just like, this is insane. Like, I want to just like get a chance to rest in between my two jobs. And I really didn't want to go out to a restaurant because I'm working at a restaurant all night. So, I'm being pushed to my limit. And anytime I raise any sort of like, dude, I'm so sick of this. Like, I just want to get a good night's sleep. I just want to like work only one job. Like, why aren't you getting work? Like, why aren't you working a job and helping to pay for half the rent, or at least like 1/3 of the rent, or any bit of the rent, or groceries, or food, or anything? She'd throw a huge fit. And like, these fits would get worse and worse and angrier every time. To like one point, I remember I had a guitar, and she threw my guitar at the wall, broke it. And I remember it left a huge dent in the wall, and I had to figure out some way to like fix that so that I wouldn't lose my deposit. Well, I did end up losing the deposit anyway, because not only did she end up breaking my acoustic guitar, but she ended up putting a big old hole in the wall too. So when I moved out of there, I never even got my deposit back. So now even like one of my pastimes of practicing acoustic guitar is taken away from me. I can't use my computer because there's only one computer, and she's using my computer all the time. We don't have cable. We can't afford that. This is back during the days before YouTube was the only thing you watched. And I'm kind of like losing my mind. And my only source of sanity is a PS2. Now, the PS2 I bought back in college, and that's what I use to kind of use a bit of escapism in my life. And while I'm doing this, one day I'm insanely hungry. We're out of money. I'm searching everywhere in the couch to see if like maybe I have some lost coins or something like that. Like, I'm literally digging for coins. And I'm looking through my closet, and I find a place where she's hidden my old wallet. Now, this was a wallet I thought I had lost a long time ago. And when I lost it, I knew I had, I think, about $200 in it, and I could not find it. And in one of her old shoe boxes, that I would never touch her stuff because that was off limits. You don't touch her stuff. That's fine. I totally understand couples having private things they don't want touched. I find my old wallet. And the only reason I find this is because the lid is slightly off of there, and my wallet was like a neon orange at the time, and I see that neon orange popping out of there, and I think, no, that couldn't be it. But the light shines on it, and it's got kind of that reflective, like, night glow type look to it, and I pick it out, and sure enough, that's my wallet. And my money's still in there, and it's still the same money that I lost with the wallet a long time ago. She had found it, I guess, and just never told me. Now, I don't want to go straight to saying she stole my money. I mean, it could just be that it slipped her mind, but this was very strange that I had asked her about money to buy groceries that very day, and she had said we have absolutely none, when obviously she had found my wallet a long time ago and kept it. And
I don't know. I still to this day I don't know what to think about that situation. So of course I go out and I buy food with my money that I found in my old wallet that I thought was lost forever. And I'm pretty happy about that. And I come back for food for both of us. So what does she do? She gets super pissed off. She says, I can't believe you went through my stuff. I can't believe you dug through my shoebox and took that out. And of course I'm like kind of confused because I'm like, took out my own wallet? Like, part of me is like, well, what do I do? Do I apologize for going through her stuff, or do I say, why did you take my wallet? Like, I'm really conflicted. I'm kind of in this stranglehold between right or wrong. And she's uncontainable at this point, just like raging through the house.
And she destroys my PS2, so now I lose my PS2 on top of it. So now I've got nothing again. And finally, when she destroyed the PS2, I like really lost my mind. I couldn't believe like she'd taken away like one more thing that had been my pastime when I would get home. And I finally start to like really lose it and yell at her like, I can't believe you've done this. I can't believe you would just like trash, like I took it, but I needed food. I was starving. And what does she do? She takes a knife out from the kitchen. Now, lucky for me, she was a tiny girl. Like she was only 5'2", I'm 6 foot. And so I could wrestle the knife out of her hand. But I remember that being my breaking point. Like I remember having to press onto her wrist so that her hand would open up so that she would drop the knife. And then I packed up all my stuff. And luckily I had a really good friend at the time who came and picked me up in his van. And he took me to go live at his house. And we tried to come back to get all my stuff. She had moved all of it out to some other dude she had been talking to the whole time we had been together. She moved it out to his apartment, took all my stuff. I had like a big screen TV that, you know, all I wanted to do was be able to buy another PS2 and play that on it. My computer was gone. That had been like my biggest purchase during the time I had gone to college. That I literally had spent like a massive amount of my money on that because I needed it for college. Now it was gone. And anything else, like even like the couch we had there that we had paid for together was gone. I remember she took. And later I found out from a friend of a friend that she had been talking to this other guy on, I guess, AIM or whatever people were using back then. AIM or what is the other one called? IRQ, I think, wasn't it back then? God, I can't remember back this far now. And she had been having like multiple relationships with multiple guys, and that's how she was getting all that extra money that she was storing away. Was she was asking for money from all these different dudes and like meeting up with them and hooking up with them. And I didn't know about any of this because I was gone from the apartment for so long. So there was some stuff I noticed during this time that afterwards, when I looked back at it, I was like, oh, that's why I was never allowed to see that, or that's why I was never allowed. So like, you know, if I would go to look at my computer to try and look something up real quick and she was using it, she'd always be closing the windows real fast. She'd always be turning the monitor real fast. And I'd be like, why are you turning the monitor? She'd, oh, the glare from outside. I can't see the monitor because the sun's too bright. And I thought, well, it's right next to the sliding glass door, so maybe she's right. And she would do like these weird mind tricks on me that like made me think like, oh, I guess I'm not noticing how nice she's trying to be. And that's really bad on me that I'm getting so angry when she's just trying to be nice. She had written love with lipstick on the mirror. And one time when I was yelling at her, she's like, did you see what I did for you? Look in the bathroom. And then she had wrote love with lipstick on the mirror. And that was supposed to be like she was trying to send me a great message for that day, so that I would remember to love her always. And I just thought, like, what kind of high school bullshit? Like, this is like emo high school bullshit is this? Like, am I like? But I thought like, oh, I guess maybe I should have really respected the fact that she was just trying to show me she loved me today. And, you know, I shouldn't be so mad that she wrote this on the mirror. It can just be cleaned off real easy. And, you know, she's trying to tell me she loves me when I'm not even, you know, stopping to not yell at her for keeping me up all through the night. Like when I look back on it now, it's crazy. And then I remember finally when I had moved into my friend's house, she got me to move back in for a short amount of time until I found out I was being hoodwinked once again. And the reason she got me to move back in for just a little bit was she told me she was pregnant. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know. Like, well, no matter what, that's my responsibility. I got to take care of her. And So I started to set up the house again. I started to move stuff back. I still didn't know what had happened to our stuff. She told me that like she had moved it to her mom's house and would start moving it back, but I thought like, well, I'm not going to rush her to try and get her to move stuff back if she's pregnant, because you don't want to make like a pregnant woman move stuff around. And then finally one day she was like, I don't think I can have this baby. I need to get an abortion. And I thought like, oh my God, like what the hell? Like, okay, I mean, it's your choice. So I gave her, I remember it was like $800 because she told me that's how much an abortion was. And she makes an appointment one day, leaves, comes back, and she's like, all right, now you need to get me like a bunch of good food and stuff because I just went through all of this for you. Like you got me pregnant and I had to have an abortion. And I thought like, oh my God, like, so I went out and bought her like all this nice stuff, like because I felt so bad I had made her get an abortion. Later I find out, because I was such a naive idiot, a woman can't go to get an abortion by herself. She can't drive herself there and then drive herself back. And we each had our own separate cars, so I know like no one was driving her back or anything or dropping her off. And also like you have to go there with a woman if they get an abortion at an abortion clinic, and they get drugged up enough that like someone needs to drive them back, and even when they come back they would still be in some sort of not so lucid state, I guess is what it is. So when I explained that to my friend, I was like, yeah, I can't believe I had to pay for an abortion. He's like, what? You didn't tell me about it. You had to pay for an abortion. I was like, yeah, man. She had to go one day with $800. And like, I remember her coming back with like all these bags and stuff. And I thought like, well, that's good. At least she went shopping after, and she feels like maybe that helps her feel better after an abortion, because that's a really traumatic thing. I find out, no, she just spent the $800 on Victoria's Secret to go meet the boyfriend that she was cheating on behind my back. Like she was cheating on me with this guy, and she was going out to use that $800 to buy stuff to show off to him and get him gifts and stuff with my money. And I was being completely hoodwinked. I thought like, oh, I don't know how, like, you know, I was so naive. I just didn't even know that like for an abortion, like it doesn't leave a woman able to drive herself back and forth. It's not something that happens like in just a couple hours and then they drive back A-okay. It's like the equivalent to surgery, where you need somebody to drive you back afterwards. And when I told my friend about that, because his girlfriend had gotten one, he was like, no, dude, that doesn't make any sense. Like, first of all, you know, it's more than $800. Second of all, you can't go there alone and do it. Like, I know I had to go with my girlfriend and wait around. And even other people I know, like their mom took them or something like that. Like, a woman can't drive herself. They won't even like let you be released into your car to drive back by yourself. He's like, if you're sure she drove back by herself, then she's totally hoodwinked you and just taken your money. Well, later I found out, like, yeah, that's pretty much what she had done. I mean, she still had half my money in her wallet. Later I found out, like, the $800 I had given her, she'd only spent about $400 of it, and she still had $400 in her wallet. And so I knew, I was like, I'm pretty sure an abortion's not just $400 if she only spent half of it. And then the half that she did spend, she spent it on Victoria's Secret for her boyfriend. It's crazy. I mean, looking, you know, I was 21. I was still kind of like a child like mine. I was very naive. I was not smart at all about how relationships work, how people treat you, like that it's a compromise, that you share duties throughout the day. Like, I was doing all the cleaning, I remember too. Like, I remember the thing that used to drive me totally nuts is when I would leave for work at 9 o'clock in the morning, she would be laying on our couch that was like a bed type couch, you know, the fold out bed couch with all like the blankets around her, looking super cozy. And then I would come home at 4 and she'd still be there looking super cozy. And then I would leave for my second job and come back at 11 and she'd still be there looking super cozy, just like on the laptop or watching TV or something. And I just think like, damn, I wish I could do that. I wish I could just like lay here all day and chill out. But I gotta work because I gotta make this work. And, you know, especially if I have a baby on the way, you know, and I think about it now, she was like never showing at all. Like, she was a super skinny girl. So I just thought like, I think skinny girls don't show that they're pregnant as much. Like, that's how it works. Like, oh God. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense now when I look back on it, like how small-minded I was, how naive I was, how much I was being made a sucker of. And it's awful. And guys or girls out there, if you're out there and you're working your butt off for somebody who never pays their half of the rent, or you're being finagled for money all the time, or you're having to do all the house duties and pay the full rent. Kind of like, remember what I talked about with Kai and Amia, where I was like, dude, having to like clean the house and pay for groceries while her parents pay for rent, like that's a pretty fair trade. Like looking back on it now, I can't believe I just let myself get used that much. But for me, I thought that's what compromise was. I thought like it meant, the man gets out there and he does all the work and he takes care of the house and the woman's at home. But like if I think about it now, like she wasn't even like a housewife. Like, you know what I mean? Like she didn't cook, she didn't clean, she didn't do any of that stuff. So like even if I wanted to be like, I'll be like old fashioned 1950s style, like she wasn't the 1950s style wife who, did all that stuff. But I was definitely like the 1950s guy who was going to work, 24/7, working 12-hour days to pay every single bill possible. So man, oh man, yeah, that is my abuse story. I don't know if I would call it abuse. Financial abuse, definitely financial abuse. And I guess, at the end where she grabbed a knife out of the kitchen and like started wielding it like a crazy person. Oh God. Thinking about that now, like part of my mind is kind of blanked part of it out just because I remember being so distraught and like so sleepy all the time and so just wound up on anger. I was like so angry inside and like I didn't know what to do. Like I would cry to my friends about it. Like they'd be like, dude, you need to get out of there. Like that is messed up. I remember one of the things one of my friends did to finally really make me think about moving out of there. He was like, hey, let's sit down for a second. And he took a calculator out and he was like, so what exactly do you pay for? Okay, this, 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 this. And he kept adding it up. And like, he's like, so the first 2 weeks you pay $800 out of your paycheck for everything. What do you pay for the next 2 weeks? And I remember it was like another $800 because I remember it was $1,400 for rent and we always had $200 left over. And I was like, wow. He's like, you would save all that money if you just moved out. He's like, you could move into my place and pay $200 a month for rent for a bedroom and then just save the rest of your money. And I thought like, that's crazy. Like, I can't believe I would save that much. I guess I should. And then finally the one night where she brought the knife out and then I was fooled about the abortion afterwards. I never went back and I never ever saw my stuff again. But honestly, it's crazy, like when you leave a really bad relationship, it's so wild. Like small things, like going to the store to buy groceries, I remember, by myself and not having to worry about did I pick out the right stuff for her or would she yell at me because I forgot to pick up what she wanted, wasn't a part of my modus operandi anymore for operating outside of the house. I remember thinking about like I didn't have to be back in time to get ready for my second job and like rush to get there. Like I didn't have to wait and see if she had tried to clean up anything or if I would be cleaning up a bunch of dishes for that day even after I finished work. I remember like how those were such small things, but to me they were like so relaxing. Like I was like, wow, this feels like freedom. Like this feels so amazing that I can just like go anywhere anytime I want. I don't have to like report back to home base all the time. I don't have to report to 2 jobs a day. I don't have to pay for every single thing. I don't have a million bills. I'd pay $200 at the beginning of the month and I'd be free for the rest of the month to just buy whatever I needed or wanted or save money, which was like a completely foreign concept to me while living with her. What a wild time, man. Looking back at old me, I can't believe how naive. Now, anytime I had some other girlfriends after that treated me kind of bad, not nearly as bad as that. Like I never had any of them that like were abusive to a point of like pulling out a knife or hitting me or going crazy and waking me up every 5 seconds. But I did actually have another girlfriend after that who like refused to work. She like, when we first got together, she was working all the time and I was working all the time. And then we moved in together and she just like immediately quit her job and was ready for me to pay everything and had her friends over every night and was like partying every night. And I remember just one night I came home, it was probably like the 7th day in a row that it was like her and her friends partying at the house about 2 months after she had not worked any kind of job or looked for any kind of job. And I just started packing up that night. She's like, why? And I was like, I'm just not going to go through this again. Like, I can't do this again. I can't, be the main breadwinner. And that time I had been smart enough where I didn't sign myself as the main name on the lease either on the apartment. So I didn't lose any money at all. I just moved right out. And that was that. And even now, like, I'm not the type of guy who thinks like the woman has to work or the guy has to work. But I do feel like almost everything in the house should be split half and half. Each person has equal power to take care of things, unless there's some sort of like physical or mental challenge that is stopping them from doing so. And I'm not saying they need to pay exactly the same amount. Actually, if you want to know my situation now, my wife makes way more than I do, probably about triple what I do. And I do all right for myself, but my wife is in the medical field, so she does way better than I do as far as money is concerned. But we both definitely work equal amount. Actually, she works a little less than me, but she makes way more. And, it, like I said, it helped me figure out the things I didn't want in a relationship. And one thing I really had seen with my own parents, they're still together to this day. God, how many years? They've been together for ages. They had a really balanced relationship. My father worked and my mom worked up until the day that they had to retire. And they always balanced everything, like cleaning. I guess my mom did always cook. That was because my dad was like the old school, like 1950s dad who'd never learned how to cook anything at all. So, but they both worked equally hard. I felt like they were both kind of I think a lot of us all judge ourselves on our own parents. So looking back at that, I'm kind of glad I did see that I had like a hardworking dad and a hardworking mom, and it instilled in me that like I too should look for a relationship that's balanced in many different ways. Both at home, taking care of the house and upkeep, both at work, paying the bills and financially, and having the freedom not just financially, but like to do and pursue whatever you want as far as hobbies are concerned, or a pastime. Like they never give each other any kind of problems for like what the other person's hobbies are. Like my dad's into BMWs, and I think my mom plays a Baby Alvarez acoustic guitar. It's like her hobby. So that was one thing I gotta say thank you to my parents for teaching me what a healthy relationship looked like, and made me see what an unhealthy relationship I was in. And if any of these things that you heard today sound like some part of the relationship you're in, maybe look for help, or consider taking a step out of your situation for a bit and reflecting on what's going on. Because some of these, especially the financial abuse, I think a lot of people don't talk about financial abuse enough, how badly that can entrap you in a relationship, because you can't afford to move out. You can't afford to eat without the other person. You can't afford to buy a new apartment. You can't afford some sort of transportation to let you get anywhere you want. So like really take a look at that aspect too. Don't just think like abuse just means like you're getting punched in the face all the time or something like that. There's many different psychological, financial, and mental abuses people can do to hold you into a relationship and trap you and make you think you're the crazy person. If you feel like this is the first time you've ever been in a relationship where you feel like you're a crazy person, it's probably not you, it's probably them. If the relationships you had in the past were not so crazy and you're like, why am I feeling like a crazy person in this relationship? It's probably them, it's probably not you. You're probably trying to do the best you can and your mind is struggling to take some sort of control or semblance of a correct relationship, and you're not getting that out of there, so your mind's kind of losing lucidity with the world around you. Anyway, guys, I thought I'd share that with you just because, like I said, I made this channel to talk about these kind of issues. I made these channels to call out abusers and stuff I saw on YouTube, and I feel like it's only fair that I share my own stories to tell you where I'm coming from. Anyway, guys, until next time, I've been the Inksmith, and I'll talk to you again real soon.